the waves that are behind you are battering these rocks, tearing away little bits and particles and atoms and molecules from those rocks. And over time, they become really, really smooth, like this one. This one's been weathered down. You can still see some of the holes where the volcanic pores open and some of the gases spewed out, but it's a lot smoother than it used to be. And eventually, as those things batter them more and more, they turn into the sands you see behind me. Tiny little bits and fragments of the rocks that used to be. Hey guys, Mr. Shaw here again. I'm sitting on a black sand beach. You can see my hand, I've got all this sand. It looks just like sand, except that it's black in color. That's because it's broken down from igneous rocks, whereas the sand that you would find in beaches around us are usually sedimentary, metamorphic, or other kinds of rocks, like limestone is pretty common in a lot of the beaches on like Lake Michigan. But this black sand comes from rocks like obsidian, granite, not gneiss, which is metamorphic, but a lot of rocks where you can actually see some tiny crystals in there that would have formed from lava as it cooled really, really quickly. Now, all this black sand would have probably been broken down by rivers like the glacial rivers that we saw earlier, where you have glaciers melting and then the water from them flows down, and then that erodes little bits of the rock that's in the little bed, and then that turns into these tiny sediments, and these sediments end up on the beach. And then that beach ends up in the ocean. Most of the Galapagos Islands were basically made through a series of volcanic eruptions on a hot spot that is moving further and further west every single year. Because of that, most of the island is made of a bunch of volcanic rocks, so lots of igneous, dark-colored, ashy-looking rocks with a lot of holes in them. But this beach, rather than being made of volcanic sand, is this white sand, made primarily not of rocks, like this one, but of shells, like this one. The ocean waves are going to batter these shells over time, as well as a lot of the salt that's in the ocean washing up on shore, and a lot of coral, white coral, that's underwater right here. As all those break down in weather, and all of those break into little bits, they turn into this beautiful white sand beach. Back this way, you can really see the contrast between the black volcanic rocks that make up most of the island, and then the weathered white coral and shells and other stuff in the sand that's in between the cracks in the rocks. We've looked already at black sand beaches, white sand beaches, and we know that the black sand might come from an igneous rock while the white sand comes from things like coral. But behind me is actually a purple sand. Sand can come in almost any color. It just really depends on what kind of rock is being eroded away and broken down and then deposited on that shore. And while there is some white sand and some beige sand here, you've also got these streaks of purple sand that especially pool really close to the shore. So as I'm walking on Pfeiffer Beach, I noticed down here this little streamlet that also has a lot of purple sand underneath. And I'm trying to figure out where this purple sand comes from. Is it a rock that was offshore and it's getting broken up? And there's two options I can think of here. One is that the river is actually carrying the purple sediment from somewhere upstream, so it's actually coming from in the forest somewhere. And the other option is that it's underneath this regular sand. But for some reason the river water is eroding away the top layer, and then you've got this purple sand underneath. So a couple ways I can test this. One is I actually dig a little bit into the sand, and I don't see any purple sand there. Then I can dig into the area under the river, and underneath the purple sand is just more of this clear sand. So that makes me think, and I think I can conclude that upstream somewhere is the source of all this purple sand, and it's depositing it down on the shore. Adding to that, I can see that there's a lot of purple sand close to the shore, or close to the walls. But then as I go further down towards the shore, it's mostly just white sand.